बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम नहमदुहु व नुसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम अम्मा बाद फ़ऊज़ बिल्लाहि मिनश शैतानिर रजीम. This is the voice of Dr. Muhammad Iqbal, your course instructor, standard setting in assessment. Dear student, this is my lecture number 30th on last unit of our course outline, future direction and the challenges of standard setting. So learning outcomes of this subunit 7.2. After completion of this session, students will revise the future direction and other challenges of standard setting. Revise the methods of adjustment, cut scores. And number 3, deciding how to incorporate uncertainty. First of all, I will revise the definition of standard setting. Standard setting refers to the process of establishing one or more cut scores on a test. Another definition given by CISIC 1993. The proper following of a prescribed rational system of rules or procedures resulting in the assignment of a number to differentiate between two or more states or degree of performance. So this is the definition of cut score. It is a number which differentiate between two or more states of or degree of performance achieved by a student or performed by a student. Dear students, in standard setting process, experts face a lot of challenges while setting the standards. So here, first of all, we should look into what is the standard setting? What is the challenge in standard setting? A challenge is something that puts you to the test. It means it puts you in a difficult situation. You have to face a difficult situation. To overcome that situation, you have to work pretty hard. So challenge as a verb is driven from a Latin word meaning to accuse falsely, and it is still used much as it was in the 13th century in the sense of questioning whether something is true or right. So it's a very old notion which was used in 13th century, and it's drawn from the Latin word meaning to accuse falsely. Dear students, assessment experts have to face a lot of standards, lot of challenges during standard setting process, and these standard setting challenges are many. These can be named as: number 1, rounding. Number 2, methods of adjusting cut scores. Number 3, deciding how to incorporate uncertainty. Number 4, generalizability of standards. Number 5, using multiple methods of standards. And number 6, legal issues in standard setting. Dear students, I have discussed and presented in my previous lectures about the first two challenges, rounding off. I have shown many videos about the rounding off, and then in previous lectures I have discussed about the methods of adjusting cut scores. Now in this session number 30, I will focus on the deciding how to incorporate uncertainty. So this is the topic and session of my present lecture number 30. Deciding how to incorporate uncertainty. So there are many ways in which uncertainty is inherent in the standard setting process. It means uncertainty meddles with the hinder in the standard setting process many ways, and that method exists for qualifying those levels of uncertainty. It means standard setting experts have to address the issue of challenge of level of uncertainty while making the standards. The question now is, what do we do with this information? So what will we do this information? One option would be to simply report the information along with the cut score to those responsible for setting the performance standards. It means one solution of the addressing an issue of challenge of uncertainty, the people who are responsible for setting performance standards should be informed about the information along with the cut scores. To perhaps also to those who are consumers of score information. This information may be helpful for those people who are consumers of score information. Then, knowledge of variability of the estimates of cut score or viewed from other perspective, the level of agreement or disagreement among the participants would seem to be crucial to the adapting or policy making body. So this challenge also causes a problem about the knowledge of variability of the estimates of the cut score, to whom people view from another perspective, like the level of agreement or disagreement among the participants would seems to be crucial, important to the adopting or policy making body. Similarly, measurement specialists are obliged to report not only the reliability coefficients but also various standard errors of measurement. So similarly, this challenge also tried to be addressed to informing the measurement specialist to report not only reliability coefficients but also various standard errors of measurement. It means the experts have been informed, are obliged to inform them about the reliability coefficients of the cut scores or standard setting procedure and other various standard errors of measurement. So of course, by and large, the decision to adopt or adjust a cut score is itself essentially a policy decision. So it means the by and large the decision to adopt or adjust a cut score is itself essentially as a policy decision. It means it is taken as a policy decision by the standard setting entity or organization. So in that state, the performance standards were adopted on two different components of the same program. So in this situation, performance standards were adopted on two different components of same program, including reading and mathematics. It means reading and mathematics. These on two components, these performance standards have been adopted. With the primary difference between the two adoptions being that the meeting for setting the cut scores occurred a year apart, with a change in state superintendents also occurring in the intervening year. So with the primary difference between the two adoptions being that the meetings for setting the cut scores occurred a year apart, with a change in state superintendent and also occurring in the intervening year. The first superintendent adjusted the recommendation of the standard setting panel by lowering the cut score. It means the first superintendent adjusted the recommendation of the standard setting panel by lowering the cut score by one half of an standard error of measurement. The adjusted standard was presented to the State Board of Education, which adopted it. It means the final decision of adoption of the standard is done by the State Board of Education. One procedurally sound method for considering a response to that question has roots in Nadelsky's 1954 method of standard setting method, which included an adjustment factor in the formulation for the cut score. It means Nadelsky, in his standard setting method in 1954, given a response to this question, which included an adjustment factor in the formulation for the cut score, or to use Nadelsky's terminology, the minimum passing level. The minimum passing level used to distinguish between two groups, F and D. F and D groups. In Nadelsky's formulation, hence the FD subscripts in the following equation. Minimum passing level is equal to MFD plus KSF, whereas MFD is the mean of participants' summed cut score. While SFD is the standard deviation of the distribution and K is a variable. It means it is changing. It is not constant. So beyond initial research to establish a baseline for adjusting cut score, we propose that individuals who are likely to be involved at the final stage of standard setting, that is, those who act in official capacities to accept, reject or modify cut scores recommended by standard setting panel, be formally identified early in the process and polled regarding their personal ratios of regret. So beyond initial research for the establishing baseline for adjusting cut scores, the experts are propose that individuals who are likely to be involved at the final stage of standard setting, the people who are involved at final standard setting stage, including those who act in official capacities to accept, reject or modify cut scores recommended by standard setting panel. They formally identified early in the process and polled regarding their personal ratios of regret. So at minimum, our recommendations for a next step in this area will be to begin formal research and development into much more rigorous and systematic method and procedure for adjusting cut scores. Dear students, this was my session about deciding about uncertainty. Deciding how to incorporate uncertainty. The experts decided to inform the people or experts with the information about the standard error of measurement or other lacking information to the experts. Then the next method was Nadelsky's method, who given the answer of adjustment of this cut score with the term minimum passing level, used to distinguish between two or more groups, the F and D. And the last technique was adjusting this deciding about uncertainty was to conduct research on this topic more, to adjust these deciding about uncertainty in the challenges and a systematic method of research should be adopted in this area. So dear student, this was my all about my session. I will discuss some other challenge in my next session. Thank you very much for your listening and interest. So this is the end of my presentation.